Welcome to Spartan Up podcast. We all have bad things happen in our life, and sometimes we really let them get us down. Here's a guy who had something really bad happen in his life, and he found a way to lift him up, to make incredible opportunities out of it. So, J.R. Martinez, you're going to be blown away by this, just like you're blown away by so many of our guests. You know, what Spartan Up podcast is to bring incredible people together from around the world, interview them, present it to you so that you can share the opportunity with us to just find the incredible Spartan mindset. Like, where do they find the strength and this power to move forward?
Kind of like the four of us are incredible.
Absolutely.
It's Joe, Johnny, Anhal, and Sefra. We got Marion behind the camera. We got Andrea on the sound. And, you know, we're going beyond the Tuesdays where we have the show now, right? We've got Wednesdays. We've got Dr. Laurel, the line doctor, Dr. L. We've got Zach Avanash doing Thursdays. Rumor has it Elon Musk is going to be doing Sundays for us. So it's really a growing message around becoming better.
This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Athletic Greens. Ensure your body gets the nutrition it needs. Athletic Greens has an offer just for our listeners. Go to athleticgreens.com/Spartan to get a free box of 20 travel packets with your order, a $100 value.
All right, here we are for Spartan Up Podcast in Lake Tahoe with JR. Who the heck is JR? We met yesterday. We were on a panel together.
Yes, sir.
I found out you're in the military, ex-military, and you're burned.
Yes, sir.
You got burned, 34%.
Yeah, 34%. Yes, sir.
Of your body. Mm-hmm. But you didn't even let it affect you. You brushed it off.
Yeah, I mean, it's, it took a while, right? Like, it took time. And I think the biggest thing for me was that, interestingly enough, being here and witnessing, all the contestants here at the Spartan race, depending on whatever level they're a part of. But what's interesting is, like, this quickly became my identity, and I felt like there was nothing I could do to kind of change that. And so I quickly had to kind of understand what are some things and steps that I needed to take in order for it not to become my identity. It could be a part of it, and it could be like the window into having a conversation with Joe. Like, I probably never would be here with you having this conversation or even have this experience if I wouldn't have taken the action and the steps that I've taken, which is a direct reflection of the people who are here. I mean, the last couple of days I've met people who have gone through a divorce and they're like, this is something I want to do. People that are like survivors of an illness, just a multitude of things. And it's like people have just decided to take one step, and that one step has led up to trying to conquer this freaking mountain and this whole obstacle course, which is insane, but it just goes to show, man, like physically.
The power of the mind.
Yeah, the physically, like, yes, my body, as you can see, like, my body was damaged. My body, has scars on it. But it was the mind that was the thing that was constantly kind of holding me back. And when I would make progress, it's like you make your mind believe anything and it'll believe it, it'll accept it, and it'll just go with it, right? And then anything else is just kind of irrelevant.
We're all sheep.
Pretty much,
right?
Like, we really are, and it's just a matter of, like, what do you want to follow, or what do you want to, like, break off from the group, and then who do you want to lead, and where do you want to lead them to?
Who do you want to be?
Right? Who do you want to be? It's like, go down the path less traveled and leave a trail, right? And and I think for me that is something that has been kind of like my inspiration. Like, when I joined the military, I was 19 years old, right after high school, 2002. 9/11 happened the year before, and I thought, I'm going to do 3 years. I'll be in, I'll be out, I'll do my time. It was a one-stop shop for me. It made complete sense, right?
Right, before let's go back before military. Why did you go in the military?
I was a kid that, naively kind of had this thought process that one day I wanted to be a professional football player, like be an NFL. Like, look at, like, you see me, like, I'm not physically like anything special, right? Like, I'm not that percent. And, but I believed that because that's what I saw on TV. So that's kind of what I worked towards, like, my whole childhood. And then I went to a college.
Where'd you grow up?
So I was born in Louisiana, ended up in Arkansas, and then ended up in Georgia. Graduated high school from Georgia.
It's football country.
Football, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah, and I was solely trying to kind of get myself to those areas where football is life, and Georgia was one of those places. And so when I went and visited the school, they told me I can absolutely attend college, but I wouldn't be able to play sports at the college level because of academics. It caught up to me. But of course, in that moment, there was no accountability, no ownership of kind of where my shortcomings.
You're the one that caused this.
Yeah, like, right? And of course, I didn't acknowledge it at that time, so I was just kind of all beating myself up.
I think most people do that, actually, right? Most people don't realize. It goes back to one of the things we were talking about around principles of, like, everything you do has to be getting you closer to your goal.
Absolutely.
And then most people don't do that.
Right.
And then when they don't reach the goal, they're pissed off.
Exactly.
And so that's what happened to you.
It's exactly what happened. I got pissed off and I was angry and my mom was trying to present all these alternatives and I was like, but it wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't what I wrote on that sheet of paper. It's not supposed to happen this way. So I took the sheet of paper into my mind and just kind of shredded it, right? And like just threw it away. And I was like, I give up because there's no alternatives. So I saw a commercial, pretty cliche, about the United States Army and I thought, why not? And so obviously, like my family's from Central America, El Salvador, and I had gone to El Salvador, multiple times prior to, graduating from high school. And, based on kind of like the standards in the United States, like, people would look at us and would say we're poor. And we were, like, we didn't have a lot. But in comparison to like my family in El Salvador, we were rich. Right. And just simply from the fact that I was able to go to school without necessarily having to worry about dropping out to go work, right? Like I was rich enough in a sense of where I can freely go to school and get an education. And I screwed that up. I didn't take advantage of that. Right. So after high school, I just thought, I got to give back to this country, like, because they've given me and my family so much. And of course, it was under attack.
That commercial is the hook.
It made sense, man. Yeah. It made sense for me. It was a one-stop shop for me. So I joined the Army. Went out to basic training for 3 months, and I tell you, like, I just thought it was going to be like a bunch of guys going to football camp kind of deal, like.
You're thinking it's going to be a bunch of buddies hanging out.
Yeah, because when I enlisted as an 11 Bravo infantryman. Infantry, I'm sure you're aware, it's front lines, it's combat, and it's men, right? And I just thought
still bold though that you were able to pick up the phone or go into that recruiter's office, and not everybody can do that.
Yeah, and I think okay, so to take it further back, right? Because it's never just you never just show up, right? And just suddenly it happens. I think there's a lot of things that take place over the course of your life that we ignore that ultimately start to kind of develop up and shape in us and kind of give us that density that we need. And interestingly enough, so my mom moved us to Arkansas when I was 9, right? I didn't want to be there. And I just kind of owned it and just kind of made it my comfort zone and just worked with it.
Yeah.
But then when I got into high school, I started to notice that a lot amongst my peers, there was a lot of drugs, a lot of gangs, a lot of the negative stuff. And I just thought to myself, if I stay here, I become this. And so I orchestrated a plan for us to actually move. At the age of 17, I made a deal with my mom and I said, I'm going to go, it's the summertime, to Georgia, because she had a friend that lived there. I'll get a job. And let's say in a month, if I'm doing well enough, then you have to move. If I don't get a job within 2 weeks, or if I don't get a job within a month, or I'm not doing well, I won't bring up the moving thing until I'm done with high school. She said, deal.
Wow. And
all we could afford was for me to get on the Greyhound bus. And so I got on the Greyhound bus, went to Georgia. A month later, I saved up enough money to secure an apartment.
Wow.
So here I was as a 17-year-old kid, taking control.
You had the hustle. That's amazing.
Taking control, but it also because I was influenced by my mom. Like my mom had taught me so much. Not trying to, but she just kind of taught me a lot of lessons of where you just kind of try things, you got to go for things, and you got to, challenge yourself. And so for me to look at the military was not necessarily something brand new for me.
Yeah, it wasn't that far.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was something I've already kind of done and say, okay, I'm going to take myself out of this box that I've lived in, this comfort zone that
That's a big lesson for people listening and watching, right?
It is.
Is like, so what? Just do it.
Just go for it.
Go for it. By the way, you probably regret not doing things. You very rarely regret getting out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and I think that's what drives me to this day is I want to be that old man on the rocking chair on the front porch one day and not asking what if. I want to be the guy that said I tried it. I didn't probably complete it, but at least I gave it a shot, sure. And that's what matters more than anything. Sure. So I joined the Army. I am 3 months of basic training until December of 2002. January of 2003, I'm assigned to my unit, 101st out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. 2 months later, I'm on a plane heading over to the Middle East, 19 years old, going to war. Oh. It happens like that, man. Yeah. It happens like that. Yeah. And
scared?
Yes. I think it'd
be normal.
I think it'd be silly for me to say, I wasn't. I mean, absolutely. But the biggest thing that I was scared of, that I was terrified of, honestly, I wasn't afraid if I got shot. I wasn't afraid that if I hand-to-hand combat. I wasn't afraid of the one thing that terrified me to death, to the point where in our training, I never necessarily wanted to kind of be close to them. Landmines. Right. That's what got me.
Wow.
Think about that. Like the thing that you're afraid of something and you give it so much power that thing ultimately catches up to you and is the thing that almost completely eliminated me.
Yeah.
I wasn't afraid of anything else, and nothing else happened to me. What happened to me was driving a truck, and we ran over a landmine.
Too much energy, right?
I let it control. I let it come in, consume everything of my life, and distract me to the point where, boom, it was there.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. Yeah. So here I was now, boom, we ran over the landmine. I'm trapped inside of the truck. I'm completely conscious. I'm screaming and yelling while I'm also like gasping for air because
you can't get out. You can't get.
I'm trapped. I'm pinned. I can't get out. I can see my hands changing. For those that can see on camera, like my hands were grafted, so 3rd-degree burns, and they're changing.
Right.
And I'm thinking about like all the things that I wanted to do that I'll never get to do because I'm slowly starting to come to the terms I'm going to lose my life. I'm going to die.
Right.
And then my eyes would start to get really heavy because, I was starting to lose energy and become very weak. And they would get to the point of closing. And in my mind, Joe, I would say to myself, I can't close my eyes. If I close my eyes, then I've given up. That's it. And I would fight. And I would just make myself believe somebody is going to come. Right. I didn't know if they were going to come because I've already been in this truck for 5 minutes, completely burning alive. Right. But I had to make myself believe somebody is going to come, something is going to happen, and I would fight to open my eyes, and I would continue this vicious cycle of screaming and help and gasping for air. Sure enough, 5 minutes later, I was pulled out. Thank God, from a medical standpoint, we've advanced so much, and so I was medevaced, went through Germany, ended up in San Antonio, Texas, which is where the burn center is for the military, and 3 weeks later, I come out of a coma.
Wow.
In San Antonio to a group, a room full of strangers.
You're lucky.
I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I'm in a burning truck for 5 minutes, and to think that I just walked away with this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're alive.
This in itself is.
Let's. We're gonna take a break. Why don't you and I? What do you want to do some burpees? No. Dance? You want to dance?
Let's dance. Let's dance. Who leads?
All right, you lead.
So we're going to take a quick break and take this opportunity to talk to everybody about Athletic Greens.
Yeah.
We've got a great opportunity. We're up here on the top of the mountain.
They're a great partner.
They sent us their packets, 6 weeks ago or so, and we all started drinking it. And
you guys look better.
Well, thank you, and I feel better. And I tell you what, I really like this stuff.
So do I.
Yeah. So, it's packed with nutrients and vitamins, right? Stuff maybe I don't normally get.
Packed.
It is stuff I've never heard of.
There's quite a bit here I don't know.
Yeah, and I know, Sefra, you've traveled.
We know that, guys.
No, but you've traveled the whole world. You know most of these ingredients. You've drank them. But have you ever had them all at once?
No, and it makes it so easy because all of these things come in little vials and jars, or they're huge fruits, or they're just to get all of these ingredients in your kitchen to actually stay shelf stable. That's a tongue twister.
Well, some of the things I do know, like sugar and caffeine and those things, right? I don't see them on this box.
That's a great point.
I don't see them.
You know
So
apples, broccoli,
but I'm saying they've got things
spinach.
in here. I do know a lot of the things in here. I don't know them all.
None of us know everything all. Yeah, no. So honestly, this is a forager's delight. It makes my life easier, makes me feel better, and makes me able to have this in the morning and then go out on adventures. And this morning here, I found wild currants, the ribes.
You've got all this in your kitchen. I'm one of those guys.
I don't have a kitchen.
I was going to say I don't have a kitchen. I literally don't. I just travel and travel and travel. I don't have anywhere to stop. But the nice thing, I didn't have this in my kitchen. I had this in the gondola. I've had this in planes. I've had this on trains and buses. And it's so nice that I'm not just grabbing something at the convenience store on my way by. I'm not just grabbing a quick coffee, a latte, something like that. Mm-hmm. I pour some water in. I take my travel pack.
Right.
I put it in, and I've got everything.
Yeah. Well, they've taken away the excuses, right?
100%. Being busy is no excuse.
Right. I'm just going to go grab some fast food, or I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to blend it. I don't have time to go forage it. Yeah. It's done.
How many business people have you met? They're out of shape, and they go, it's just hard staying in shape on the road.
Right.
Retrain your brain to thrive and surthrive and jive with the outdoors.
All right.
Okay,
nice.
We're going to
Let's go back to
let's go
back to the interview.
Let's go back and hear what Joe's got to say.
Blessings.
You're a pretty good dancer.
Have some trading.
I you were saying about your single mom. She taught you how to dance?
Yeah. Like, I didn't have a choice. Like, it's funny because, like, my mom would be in the house, like, when I was a kid, and, you know, she always was playing music and really loud. Like, my mom's 4'11", but has this really big personality, big laugh, big smile. And in the mix of me walking through, like, just going to the other part of the house, she would grab me, literally start doing this.
You don't even know.
And I was just
no
like,
one's
Mom,
gonna
stop.
believe. No one's going to believe this, but my parents are divorced.
Yeah.
My mother did the same exact thing to me.
I know.
To Donna Summers. When Donna Summers was playing, she was dancing, and I had to be dancing with her. And it was like, Ma, leave me alone. Like, it's a little weird.
It was like this. It was like, oh, my God. Like, you know, she's, like, doing turns and everything.
It came in really handy later.
Well, the thing is, when I became like 14 and 15, and I knew that girls liked guys that could dance, and I was like, hey, Mom, like, teach me a little bit more. Yeah. And then, so I always tell people, like, when I went on dancing and teamed up with Karina Smirnoff, like, I already kind of had a foundation because my mom had taught me a lot, you know, so and she was able to work with it. And
so there's a chance if this Spartan thing doesn't work out, I have a future with Dancing with the Stars?
I think so. I think your footwork, we got to
work on the footwork.
We got to get you to do, like, this course, though, in, like, 2-inch Latin hills.
I could do that.
If you could do it in 2-inch Latin hills, then you can go to the dance floor, man, in the ballroom, and you're good. Because that's the biggest challenge for guys is, like, we're not used to wearing, like, hills, and so when you do the Latin dances, you have to wear this 2-inch Latin hill and you all week, and I know it's nothing compared to the ladies that wear 4 or 6, but for us, like, 2 inches, like, no joke, and it makes me have a deeper respect.
I like the Irish dance.
Those are hard.
I mean, I can't do it, but I mean, if I had to really learn dance, that's what I would.
That's hard. That's a lot of movement.
I always lean towards the harder stuff, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think everyone would concur with that.
What's next?
You know, I think for me is a Spartan race. I want to do one.
You want to do one?
I want to do one.
Nice. Because, funny enough, we signed you up for Iceland. Yeah, he signed up for Iceland.
I've learned something.
It's my birthday in Iceland. So you're in?
Is that my birthday gift to you? I've learned by being here the last couple of days. I was jokingly telling someone, they were like, oh yeah, like, you're going to tell you the story about Joe. I ran into him, and then he was like, I got an idea, let's go do something. And then you were telling the story about Isaiah. You put him in this room, dark room, to run for 18 hours.
24 hours.
Or 24 hours. Yeah. And I'm just like, I think what I've taken away from this, as much as I want to be around you, I also want to avoid you.
Well, Iceland will be together. It's my birthday.
When is it?
December. It's the coldest time in Iceland, whatever that would be. December 14th, first weekend of December, and it's going to be awesome.
This year.
So
I have.
You got a couple of months.
3 months.
Yeah, you got a couple of months to get in shape.
To burpee it up You're
going to love it. You're going to love it. Ice cold, complete darkness, very few rations, and return unlikely.
That's exactly what I strive for.
All right, listen, I'm cold. You're going to be cold. Listen, you know Shackleton? You've heard about this guy Shackleton?
I have not.
Well, years ago there was this famous explorer, right? And so he decides that he's going to go around the Horn of South America, Johnny. Right? He's going to sail around, first person ever to do it. And they're gonna be famous because of it. And he's excited, right? He's a badass, this guy.
He actually ended up in Antarctica.
In Antarctica.
He ended up.
Well, so he has to run an advertisement because he needs a bunch of people to come with him, and so he runs the advertisement and it says expedition, right? We're looking for a few good men, low rations, return unlikely, complete darkness. Who's in? 5,000 people showed up to come out. He ended up getting stuck in the ice for 2 years. Did not lose a man. Did not lose one person.
Wow.
And so Iceland's very much like that.
So I should make sure my wills are sorted out.
Sort out all that. Sort out all
life
that
insurance policy,
and
beneficiaries.
The good news is, we are sponsored by a funeral parlor there. So if there's any issue at all, you're covered. So after Iceland.
Let's not ignore this.
After Iceland, you want to do Sparta?
Are you going to make Iceland?
I'll make Iceland. I could usually handle a cold. I'm just cold today. I don't know why. But Sparta, you should do a trifecta. You should do Iceland, Sparta, and Mongolia. There's resistance.
Cut. Cut. This is where I take off the mic.
What tips would you give people out there that, let's say 1 or 2 or 3 tips that are stuck in life? They're stuck on the couch, they're stuck in their job, they're not motivated, and they're like maybe feeling a little down on themselves.
I guess the question is, you have to ask yourself, the question is, whatever you're unhappy about, is this what you want your life to become? You know, I always tell people that when you think about your life as a book that you're going to present to someone for them to read and hopefully gain something from it, the first few chapters of the book have already been written for you. They've been written by your family's history, by our country, by Earth's history. But then at some point, you have the opportunity to write the middle, the body, and the ending. That's on you. So you have to ask yourself the question, like, am I happy where I'm at? Am I accomplishing? Am I fulfilling the things that I want to accomplish and fulfill? And you may not even know the answer, but if you know you're not happy where you are, then it's about saying, I'm going to change that. I'm going to change my identity.
You get to write it.
Because you get to write it. You have control. In the mix of us feeling like we've lost so much, the one thing we always have is how are we going to show up? What's our attitude going to be? How are we going to, what's our outlook going to be?
We can't control the environment, but we control the reaction to it.
You can control reaction to it. And that's exactly the key that has worked for me.
Right, because your reaction in the hospital could have been, I'm done.
Easily, I'm done. Like, I mean, there were so many opportunities where there were triggers, and there's still triggers to this day, Joe, that people come up to me and they see my scars and the way that they look at me, and it's a reminder of my truth. And that can easily send me to a dark room, not running on the treadmill like Isaiah for 24 hours with a bunch of bananas and a little bit of water, but it would send me into a dark room and never want to show my face ever again. But I've had to continuously make a choice. Am I going to allow that individual to have that much power over me? No. And so what I do is I've used humor, right? Like, I had a kid one time come up to me at the store, and he was just staring at me with his mouth wide open. And you never seen anything like this. And I had a choice. Do I run away because he's reminding me, or do I approach him? And I approached him, and I said, can I help you? And he said, you don't look normal. That's what he said. Now, another trigger, another opportunity for me to run away, and this is what I chose. I looked at him and I said, you know, that's interesting, because I was looking at you thinking the same exact thing. And he was like, what? No, I'm normal. I said, no, man, you're not normal. I'm normal. And we had this 2-minute back and forth banter about who's normal, who's not, to the point where he was so confused, he turned around and walked away. And I felt so empowered, and I went back to shopping, and then like 10 minutes later, he shows back up and he's like, I want to apologize. And I said, why? And he said, well, because that wasn't nice of me to say that. And I said, man, listen, normal is what you feel, is what you are, is what you own. That's the opportunity and the control that every single one of us have. But we have to be willing to do that. And so the question is to everyone listening and watching right now, are you happy? Are you happy where you are? Are you happy with your circumstance? If not, then it's on you to re-identify yourself. It's on you to constantly shape that and say, how do you want it to, what's your story going to be from this moment that you have that conversation with yourself on for the rest of your life? What's your legacy going to be? What's your mark going to be? How are people going to remember you? I know way too many people, and I love my mother to death, but my mother lost a child. My mother almost lost me. My mother was a victim of domestic abuse. My mother has dealt with a lot of abandonment, and I understand it, and it's validated. I validate it. But you know what I've seen with my mother, unfortunately now, is that all of those things, because her unwillingness to take control and to deal with it and take those necessary steps, all it's done is just kind of got in the middle of everything else that could be beautiful.
Hold on. All right, we're still rolling.
And so it's affected mom.
It's affected mom. It's affected in the way that she lives. It's become an obstacle that she has not been able to overcome and hasn't been willing to overcome.
She's not unique, though. I mean, this is everybody.
No, exactly. But that's exactly my point. You know, my father-in-law. You know, my father-in-law was 27 years NYPD, tough dude. Unexpectedly, 17-year-old daughter just passes away. Natural causes. Never getting that closure, that answer. Yeah. And he's at the point now where he's like, it's about trying to get him to understand, like, what's the story going to be? You know, what's it going to be?
You still get to write the rest of the book. I love the analogy. And by the way, you can even get people to write forwards.
Absolutely,
yeah. Bring in. Surround yourself with amazing people.
You know, it's so easy where people, I've noticed, and I've been around people, and you have too, that are executives of big companies or entrepreneurs and doing great things and just all walks of life. And what they do is they surround themselves with just like-minded people, but people that aren't going to challenge them. And then if they are challenging them, because it's comfortable. Right. And then the people that they do bring into their circle that start to challenge them and say, hey, well, let's think about this. They shut them down. Right. And so then now they're taking that power away from that individual.
And you'll see with my team, I have no power. They're shitting on me all the time, and they don't listen to anything I say. So I'm always uncomfortable.
Which is great. Which is where it happens, man. Like that's where the
and even you, yesterday we were supposed to do that talk. You came 10 minutes late. You're like, you don't care. I'm just busting your chops. You're awesome.
I thought it was awesome that the military guys showed up late, right?
Yes.
Like, we're always on time. Not the hell with it. I show up late. You know, can I still walk up on stage in the middle of a conversation?
You are awesome. I don't know where did you learn all this stuff?
Life, and honestly, we were just talking about all those factors, all those people, those people sharing stuff. That you taught me something, she's taught me something, he's taught me something. Everybody here that I'm witnessing,
you're like a walking Google.
But that's what it is, man. That's what life should be about. There's all this amazing knowledge and inspiration. People come up to me all the time and say something inspirational. I'm like, what the hell do you mean? Like, why are you looking to me to say this grand thing that I'm going to try to pull out of my right now? Right. Instead, why don't you just look at the trees? Why don't you look at the scenery around you? Look at this mountain. Look at like there's inspiration in everything. There's inspiration in an electric guitar. There's inspiration in music. Inspiration in a child and an animal and everywhere. And so like we focus so much on trying to expect like the big thing to take place, and we're losing sight of these small snippets that are teaching us, that are learning moments. It's like we have to wait for the trauma to come for us to figure it out and to learn and to be like, oh, we get it. Why can't we spend the time before that big thing happens paying attention to the small things that are happening in our life? Because those are learning, that's nutrients. Those are the beautiful things that are going to give us what we need to prepare for that big moment. You know, everyone always thinks, like, I can't wait for the big opportunity. But what steps are you taking now to prepare for that?
You got to practice.
Where's
you're not going to be ready when it happens.
Yeah, you want the moment to come, and guess what? You're gonna choke. You're not gonna do the best you can do. So, like, what's the point, right? Like, and I think that's the biggest thing is that we put so much emphasis on the destination, of the finish line, and not the journey. Yeah. Not taking in everything this course has to offer.
Well, you'll be happy to know we're going to end it with this: that you and I are going to swim to Iceland. So we're going to enjoy the journey and the finish line.
Like, I'm going to be able to row it, man.
Well, this it's been amazing. I mean, this thing is, as you said, it blows you up. It blows you up, by all means. But it's amazing how this reminds me to a guy. It's called Viktor Frankl. Said the man looking for sense, right? He said
search for meaning.
Search for meaning, exactly. When that's my Spanish translation. Yeah, sure. So really said he talks about the maximum liberty, maximum freedom is where you are the one that has to allow something to happen that happen to affect you. It's your freedom. He was this guy Viktor Frankl was in a
prison camp,
exactly,
camp. Yeah.
And they were doing all kind of things to him. But he said that it will not affect me unless I let them affect me. So
man's final freedom is how he gives this meaning.
Exactly, So this is, maybe I don't know if
it's not the obstacle. It's how you deal with it.
It's how you deal with it. So actually, I don't know if he read Viktor Frankl or not.
Several times.
No,
yeah.
but JR.
He has.
But he lives it. He lives it. And that's kind of the beauty of it. He has that insight. And that just makes magic.
He's very inspirational.
Yeah, he said, my body's injured. There's nothing I can do about that. But does my mind have to be? I get to decide if my mind's going to be injured. I get to decide how I'm going to process this. And then he said, this terrible thing that happened to me has created all the opportunities since. So talk about giving meaning to it. He could let the meaning be poor me, poor this. And he said, no, all this great stuff was because of this.
Yeah. It's at the end is the art of adversity, right? He turned that into an art.
Yeah. I've never heard that. The art of adversity.
The art of adversity. He painted a nice picture.
Yeah, that's very cool.
He does. He paints a beautiful picture, and I think a lot of the time this is a great interview for self-reflection on maybe what your judgment is and what your judgment towards other people is, because oftentimes as human beings we get normalized with a baseline of saying if everyone doesn't look or follow in this different code, we're going to shunt them off or shun people like that. And I think it's like, listen, everybody, pull back the layers a little bit, have some compassion, have some heart, because there's beautiful souls that breathe through any sort of whatever you see on the outside. And he's such a beautiful person inside and out. And it's a big reminder to just open up and,
and to not give up.
And not to give up.
Like when he said he's trapped in this burning car for 5 minutes, and the whole time he just thought, I need to keep yelling. I need them to know I'm in here. I need to hang in there. He's looking at his hands burning, and just the idea that no matter how bad it is, hang in there and keep digging, and there's something at the other side of it.
Late last night, I was with that guy, Casey, who has no legs. Mm-hmm. And he goes out and does Spartan races.
And tell me how that ended. We saw him start.
How does beat?
So he had started at 8:15 in the morning, and he finished around 9 o'clock at night. And or maybe, it was, I don't know. Somehow the clock was reading 20 hours.
Sure.
That'd
be 8.
Yeah. So I don't know what, I don't know.
8 something.
All right. But, all right. Well, anyways. So what was he saying?
So 12 hours. Yeah.
Oh, got it. Sorry.
Right.
Military time. Sorry.
What was he saying,
Way
Joe?
too early here. But he was basically very inspirational. And when I was looking at JR and I was talking to him, at first when I was talking to him, the first minute, I was seeing the scars. I was seeing the burns. By the end, I was just seeing him and inspiration. And he's got a tremendous job to do, just like KC has, which is inspire the whole world.
And he talked about the story before the injury. He said this is just part of it, but that whole thing about growing up and wanting to move and wanting to take his mom with him, and that idea. He said, if I stay here, this is what I become. He looked around and thought, this is not who I want to be, and so I need to change that circumstance. And he talked about people don't own their role in their success and their failure. They think it happens to them, and he said, no, you attract it.
But what you mentioned, Joe, is that you forget about the scars. Is what happened to me? It was his smile. It's amazing. Everything is like right there in his smile. And you just forget about everything because he's light in his eyes and then the smile, and that actually shows the attitude. That he's.
But it's a gift because what I'm saying is what KC and JR can provide to the world, the four of us can't.
Yeah, it's impossible.
You know what I mean? We can't do that. So the fact that he's embracing that job, that purpose, and doing that is powerful because a lot of people don't.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm just saying it's true. So many times people live with insecurities, and like when you're projecting those insecurities back onto yourself and focusing them on yourself, then everyone else is focusing on them too. And when you just let your light shine through, then like all those insecurities, they all wash away because humans are beautiful.
And that's something that
resonate.
Marion said. We always discuss what we got out of this because we want to make sure that we're giving it to our viewers. And Marion said, don't forget that the number one thing is that guy walks in the room and you're like, wow, that energy that he pushes, right? So we're looking at all the micro.
That's such good
but
energy.
the macro is, man, he walks in the room, he doesn't need anything from anybody. His validation is internal. He's already dealt with his stuff, and so he's ready to give. And that's huge. That
Can
energy
you imagine
is amazing.
if all of us could walk into a room that way? How much more productive?
We should all try. We should all
I'm
try.
going to leave the room.
I'm leaving.
This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Athletic Greens. Ensure your body gets the nutrition it needs. Athletic Greens has an offer just for our listeners. Go to athleticgreens.com/Spartan to get a free box of 20 travel packets with your order, a $100 value.
Thanks for listening to another epic story of success. If you like our show, be sure to tell your friends about it. We want to hear from you. Just leave us a comment below if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening, go to Twitter and find us at Spartan Up Pod or Instagram at Spartan Up Podcast and let us know what you think. Then go subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you listen to our show. Spartan Up is brought to you by Spartan Race. To find a race near you, visit Spartan.com.